Hallelujah. So, Mishpika, throughout my meditation this week, as I shared with you, one of the things that continued to come up in my ruach, and just by having conversation with different individuals, both awakened and unawakened, the theme was very prevalent. And with that being said, I pray that as this has been encouraging to me, I pray that it will encourage you as well, whether it will do so today or later on or some point in your life. I just want to encourage you not to look back. Just want to encourage you not to look back as you think about the sum total of your experience, your relationships, things you've been through, things that have been oppressive to you, things that have caused you heartache, caused you pain. I want to encourage you not to look back. And you say, More, why would you preface your argument by looking back at our past? Because sometimes we do not realize how much the past can impact where we're going. We do not realize how much our past can impact our future if we do not take a firm stand in not allowing, keyword, not allowing our past to dictate our future. As we think about this Passover season, and as some of us have celebrated unleavened bread already, some are still celebrating Passover, some are just celebrating Passover, as I saw on Facebook this week. As we think about this Passover season, sometimes we focus so much on the lamb, the unleavened bread, that we sometimes forget the Exodus experience, the experience of coming out, the experience of leaving some things behind. And this is the essence of what the Exodus is all about, the coming out. I know we put emphasis on the lamb and how it represents freedom, and we put the connection between Mashiach and, oh, you must have the blood of the lamb applied over your lives. And we talk about the unleavened bread and living a life free of leaven. And all that is perfectly summarized in the Passover and unleavened bread, but we cannot ignore the key purpose of our deliverance is for us to leave a place called Mizraim, which is symbolic of bondage. And there are things in our lives that if we are not careful, while we are coming out or leaving it behind, we cannot resist the urge or the temptation to keep looking back and reminiscing. And it pulls us down, pulls our ruach. We wake up happy, we wake up full of joy and peace. And here it is, this memory of our past keep coming up, and it drains you and you feel down, and may I say even depressed at times. So I want to draw your attention to Exodus chapter 14 as we look at our ancestors making their way out of Mizraim and some of the things that occurred that we may experience from time to time. And ultimately, where the Most High wants us. Mishpika, I love you all. But some of the things I was thinking about this week is that as we see some of the volatility in the awakening, some people come, some people go, some people shift here and there. I had to take accountability for my household and say, as for me and my house, we're going to keep Torah. We're not going to keep looking back into some of the things that may occur. Even in the awakening, if you're not careful, there are things that can happen in the awakening that can traumatize you. But Mishpik, I encourage you not to keep looking back at that. Let's look at the text here. Yahuwah spoke to Moshe. He said to Moses, tell the Israelites, and I love this tool, because as you hover over, it's not the first time I've shared the tool, but as you hover over, you'll see some of the Hebrew words, praise Yah. And here, the Hebrew word for Israelites, or Ben, or Bene, mean children or son or sons. But if you look further on down, it's talking about sons of Israel. And you see the word there, Yisrael. Hallelujah. So tell the Israelites that they must turn and camp before Pihoroth, between Migdal and the sea. You're to camp by the sea before Baal Zephon, opposite it. Pharaoh will think regarding the Israelites. They're wandering around confused in the land. The desert has closed in on them. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after them. I will gain honor because of Pharaoh and because of all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am Yahuwah. So this is what they did. When it was reported to the king of Egypt that the people had fled, the heart of Pharaoh and his servants had turned against the people. The king and his servants said, "What in the world have we done? For we have released the people of Israel from serving us." Then he prepared his chariots and took his army with him. He took 600 select chariots and all the rest of the chariots of Egypt and officers on all of them. But Yahuwah hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he chased after the Israelites. Now the Israelites were going out defiantly. The Egyptians chased after them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army overtook them camping by the sea beside Pi Hahiroth before Baal Zephon. When Pharaoh got closer, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them, and they were terrified. I want to pause right here. One, we notice here that it is the Most High who has allowed Pharaoh to become aroused and go after the children of Israel, not so that he can play a game, a malicious game, to see how much he can annoy and aggravate the people who he just released. The Most High's master plan is to show you as his people that the very things that you have been through, one, he has not been on the sideline, not taken notice, but he is in such a position of control that he allows it. And I know for some people they may say, how and why would you allow me to go through some of these things? As you think back to some of the traumatic experiences, and I don't want this to burden you on this Shabbat, I want you to be liberated. The Most High could have intervened and intercepted everything that you've been through. However, he allowed it to take place because he wanted to bring you to a place where you can see the full magnitude of his deliverance. He already knew your capacity to deal with what you went through. He knew it was going to be terrifying. It says here in the text, when the Israelites saw the Egyptians, they were terrified. The trauma of going back into bondage terrified them. The trauma of you reliving the experience is terrifying. You've seen the person that hurt you. Sometimes it's terrifying. But the Most High wants to bring you to a place where you do not operate from a place of terror, but from a place of victory where you give him praise, glory, and honor despite you being faced with situations that you've already been delivered from. Had you not been faced with these situations to encounter or experience them, you would not have known that you needed further deliverance. May I assert that the deliverance that Israel is about to experience is not necessarily one from Pharaoh, but one from a state of mind where they now see the Creator as having ultimate power and authority to bring them to where they need to go. Why? Because we already know more about the narrative than these people who are encamped in this place, because all they can see is what's in front of them. But we've read the conclusion that they will face other enemies while entering the land. The Most High is strategically positioning them to grow to a place where they do not allow the sight of their enemy to cause them to be terrified. He wants to bring them to a place where they're not just victims, but they're victors. I want to encourage you, Mishpachah, because sometimes we are faced with some of the experiences that we've been through, and we quickly go to the victim state of disposition where we're hurt and we have to relive the trauma. But the most I want to bring it to a place where when the old wound want to resurface, say, oh no, I've been through that before. I'm stronger than this now. Because if Israel does not overcome the state of being in terror here, how are they going to stand against the Hittites, the Hivites, the Canaanites when they go to possess the land? Reading along some more, says the Israelites cried unto Yahuwah. They said to Moses, it is because there were no graves in Egypt that you have brought us away to die in this desert? What in the world have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Isn't this what we told you in Egypt? Leave us alone so that we can serve the Egyptians, because it was better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Now we see a deeper issue. Everything the Most High does or allows to happen in your life is to show you what's in you. Israel had a heart condition where, while they were excited to leave, in the back of their mind, they had the door open to the possibility that if things don't work out, we can go back. Mishpachah, I want to encourage you, not just from a place of looking at the text, but from personal experience. The Most High want to bring you to a place where you don't want the desire to go back. Ooh. Because sometimes you think about how bad things were, and then a part of you will, well, there was some good in it. You sit and you reason among yourself and say, well, it wasn't all bad. The Most High wants to bring you to a place where you lose the desire to even go back. Moses said to the people, do not fear, stand firm and see the salvation of Yahuwah that he will provide for you today. For the Egyptians that you see today, you will never, ever see again. Yahuwah will fight for you, so be still. The Most High wants you, Mishpekah, to fully abandon the pain of your past, where you do not go back to revisit it. The Most High wants to bring you to a place where you come to a state of complete deliverance, where one, you have no desire to go back, but you have a desire to stay focused on moving forward. Mashiach said something important, talking about coming into the kingdom and doing the work. Talks about those who put their hand to the plow and keep looking back, that they're not fit for the kingdom. Mishpekah, I want to encourage you on this Yom Shabbat. I know there's some situations that some of us may be faced with. We took a step of faith. We didn't know how the Most High was going to do it, but we saw an opportunity for freedom, and we walked away. And there are times where we're faced with situations and we don't know what's going to become of the next 30 days, next 60 days, next 90 days. We don't know what the next year or so will hold. But Mishpekah, I want to encourage you, don't keep looking back. Don't keep wondering, what if I go back? The enemy will want to convince you, well, maybe things have changed. This is where Israel had this conflict where they want to move forward, but a part of them want to go back. When it comes to complete deliverance, you can't have one foot in your space of newness and one foot in the state of oldness. You have to move forward, Mishpekah, and make up in your mind that I'm going to stand firm. This is what Moshe encourages them in what we call verse 13. Do not be afraid, stand firm. This is not where you waver. This is not where you shake. This is not where it's kind of shaky. It's kind of iffy. Well, I don't know. This is not where you're double-minded. This is where you make up in your mind that I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to allow the pain of my past to hold me hostage. This is not where I'm going to allow the things that I go through to keep me captive. I'm not going to allow my mind to continue to go back. You got to restrain. You got to pull the reins of your mind together and say, I'm not going to allow my mind. I'm not going to allow this to dominate my mind today. I'm not going to think on these things today. That's why Shaul was encouraging his audiences, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are just, whatever things are good report, think on these things. Don't think on the negative. Don't think on the things that you've been through and allow it to hold you hostage. Verse 15 says, Yahuwah said to Moses, why do you cry unto me? Tell the Israelites to move on. My goodness. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I know we've been through some stuff, but at a certain point in our lives, we just need to move on. At some point in our lives, we just need to let it go. At some point in our life, we need to release it. Because we can't carry the baggage of the past into our future. At some point in our lives, we just got to let it go and move on. This is what we are reading. I'm not coming from a state of psychology. I'm not coming from a state of self-help. I'm telling you what the text says. What the Most High is saying to his people. It's time to move on. You've been harboring these thoughts long enough. You've been dealing with this state of unbelief long enough. You've been dibbling and dabbling in doubt long enough. It's time for you to move on. As for you, lift up your staff and extend your hand towards the sea and divide it so that the Israelites may go through the middle of the sea on dry ground. As for me, I am going to harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will come after them, that I may be honored because of Pharaoh and his army and his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians will know that I am Yahuwah when I have gained my honor because of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. The Most High wants to bring you to a place where, although you know the enemy may be behind you, know the thoughts may be coming, you're like, you know what, I'm not even I'm not even going to allow this to phase me. I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm not going to let it cause me to get out of character. Yes, there are things that the enemy can do to bring you back to the old you where you get out of character. My. And the Most High is using this because, one, he wants to show you that he's in complete control. And though you're like, Abba Yahuwah, why are these people coming up against me? Abba Yahuwah is showing you that I'm going to cut them down. Let me give you a quick testimony. Right before I resigned my job, I saw the enemy. And I can go back and I can pull the YouTube video and share it with you if you're in disbelief. And I began to pray because I saw the enemy. See, you see people, but Abba Yahuwah sees enemy. That's why you can't be asphyxiated on just people. You're fighting a battle on a different dimension. So when the Apostle Paul says, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through Elohim to the pulling down of strongholds. When the apostle said we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, against principalities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. I saw the wickedness in high places, and that's what I began to pray against. I said, no. I said, you want me to get in my flesh. You want me to go straight Jamaican and cuss you out and tell you about your mom. So I began to fight my battle on a spiritual level. And it took me up to a place where I had to shed my Western European understanding of warfare. Because with us, we're taught to just love our enemies. Oh, the Bible says, love your enemies. So we don't want nothing to happen to the enemy. The people who are coming against us, I just want to be at peace. Mishpachah, I'm fighting against a spirit that's operating in that person. And unfortunately, sometimes that person needs to be shut down for that spirit to stop operating. Oh, you may have missed that. So I began to invoke the prayers that Dawood was praying. Hallelujah. When he was praying against his enemy, I had to quickly drop that Christian mindset, and I had to get in to that plea for the Most High to destroy my enemies, where Dawood was praying and he was saying, break their teeth and destroy them, cut them down, may they perish who have come up against me. The trap they set for me, may they fall into it. I gave 2 weeks notice. The last week I was supposed to sit with my manager to go over any remaining items that I need to transition. And I began to pray. And Mishpachah, I tell you no lie, she came down with COVID. She was sick. She was out for the whole week. That was shalom for me, because that's who the enemy had manifested himself through. She was sick for the whole week. I talked to someone yesterday and she said, Vaughn, you left at the right time, because she didn't last 3 weeks after you left. She got demoted, or she stepped down, or they replaced her with somebody else. So the enemy,
hallelujah,
has to be destroyed so that you can see that the decision you made to walk in your freedom is the right decision. Because if the enemy is not destroyed, and if the enemy is prospering, then you'll have doubt in your mind whether or not you made the right decision. So the Most High said, I'm going to get some glory out of this. I'm going to be honored in the midst of this, because he has to show himself mighty. He has to show himself to boast. He has to show himself to be honored. Hallelujah. So the Most High said, I'm going to be honored in what you're going through. Verse 19, then the Malach of Yahuwah who is going before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. It came between the Egyptian camp and the Israelite camp, and it was a dark cloud, and it was up the night so that the camp did not come near them the whole night. Moses stretched out his hand towards the sea, and Yahuwah drove the sea apart by a strong east wind all that night, and he made the sea into dry land, and the water was divided so that the Israelite went through the middle of the sea on dry ground, the water forming a wall just for them. The Egyptians chased after them, and we know how the story ended, that they were swallowed up in the sea. Verse 26 says, Yahuwah said to Moses, extend your hand towards the sea so that the water may flow back on the Egyptians and on their chariots and on their horsemen. So Moses extended his hand. And again, we know how the story ends, that none of them survived. Verse 28 says, the water turned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all of the army of Pharaoh and what was coming after the Israelites into the sea. Not so much as one of them survived. I'm encouraging you, Mishpachah, not to keep looking back, because the enemy gonna be destroyed. Don't keep desiring to go back, because the thing that have aggravated you and kept you up all at night, that have caused you to cry when you're in your car, cry while you're in the shower, because you don't want anyone to see. The Most High is about to destroy that very thing, that it will have no influence in your life. When Israel saw the great power that Yahuwah had exercised over the Egyptians, they feared Yahuwah and believed in him and Yahuwah and his servant Moses. Mishpachah, the Most High wants to bring you to a greater state of belief, a greater state of faith, a greater state of trust in him. Yahuwah wants you to understand that I got you in spite of how you may be feeling. You got to get out of this state, Mishpachah, where we're governed by our feelings and our emotions. We need to be governed by faith and not feelings. And that's what I'm closing with. Be governed by faith and not feelings. Yes, I've been there, so I'm not going to sound as if, I'm way above feelings, and I'm not going to sit up here and act as if I've been always this mature in the walk to say, get over your feelings. But Mishpachah, there are times where you literally have to get over your feelings. There are times you're going to have to rebuke your feelings, because we're walking by faith. We're not walking by feelings. I know sometimes you want to say, well, I feel like this person is talking about me. I feel like this person don't like me. I feel like I'm going nowhere in life. I feel like, I feel like I'm not going to make it. You got to get beyond your feelings and begin to operate in faith and say, I know my Elohim is more than able to bring me through this. I'm not going to keep looking back into the past, into what hurt me and who hurt me. I got to move forward in faith. Mishpachah, you got to move forward in faith. Yes, I don't know how the Red Sea is going to open. I don't know how I'm going to make it to the other side. But if Yahuwah says it, I'm going to believe it by faith that I'm going to make it over to the other side. I want to encourage you on this Yom Shabbat that the Most High wants to bring you over to the other side. The Most High wants you to be free. Free in your mind, free in your spirit, free in your heart, free in your thoughts, free in your emotions. So, Mishpachah, I encourage you, don't keep looking back. Keep looking forward in faith. Hallelujah. Keep looking forward in faith. Hallelujah. And with that, I close, and I pray that this message has encouraged you as we are in the season. We're counting the Omer. Praise Yah. Let's keep moving forward in faith. One of the things that I looked at as we think about our walk in faith, the Most High says in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2, he says, remember these 40 years Yahuwah your Elohim led you all the way in the wilderness so that he may humble you and test you in order to know what's in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commandments. There's a heart matter that we need to look at. There's a heart matter we need to consider. Hallelujah. And say, and we just going to move forward in faith. In my heart, I'm going to move forward in faith. Hallelujah. 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 Praise you. Praise you. Hallelujah. I'm going to stop the recording and I'll open it up.
Wonderful.
And then we'll close. Praise you.